Hey, 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 and welcome to this week's edition of Terri Messenger's Genius Zone. So, this is all about the simplicity of being awakened to the full circle of life, death, and success. And I don't know about you guys, but I tend to struggle a little with the word death. You know, it may be because I haven't had a lot of, experience in this where I've been touched by it. But you're going to see the journey of, life and death and your success in a whole different way by the time you finish this episode. So this is going to be incredible. And Vanessa, the beautiful lady I'm about to bring on board, this lady, Vanessa Pereira, she is an incredible woman who really looks up to the greats such as Neville Goddard. And so that spirituality that she has mixed with that natural inborn intelligence and her way to be able to see life through a different lens and bring you into that real fulfillment of life. And what's a bet? You might just find the missing link. And if you're feeling like something is missing, what's a bet? You might find it. So with no further ado, I bring you the beautiful Vanessa Pereira. How are you, Vanessa?
I'm doing really well. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It is an absolute pleasure. And whereabouts in this world are you?
I'm in Toronto. It is bright and early. It's 8 a.m. now. So, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So, you are really going to expound on beliefs in this episode. And it's interesting how beliefs shape our reality so much. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to kick off by a little closed eye meditation so that we could really ground in, because I love to do this with all the incredible gifted coaches, healers, and leaders that come onto the show. But I'm going to ask everyone to experience this. So if you just put your feet flat on the ground, I want you to take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold it at the top, and breathe out. Now, this time, what I'm going to do is I am going to ask everyone that is listening to this, who is going to hear this and experience this, to be invited to call in the greatest sensations of energy that would really lift you up and awaken you and bring you into this expanded, awakened knowledge, so that you are going to take so much from this show. You are going to be so inspired. So it could be feelings like confidence, fulfillment, peace, joy. So whatever they are, it could be love, laughter. I want you to set the intention that you're going to bring these in and call them in, and take a deep breath in now. 1, 2, 3, in. Now, as we breathe them in, we're going to expand it all the way through our body. And I want you to imagine as you exhale out, your whole body fills up with love and light, and all of these energetic, emotional feelings that are so good, and awakening your fascination, your curiosity, and empowering you so that you are going to be able to listen into this show. You're going to be able to participate in this show. You are going to be able to completely expand to your fullest potential during this show. So one last deep breath and breathing in and hold at the top and breathe out and expand it all through your body and bring love and light. And thank you so very, very much. And so now with the first part of your story, you know, I always say on the Genius Zone, there is always something that will link the person in with their zone of genius, that by the time I get to know them, we do a full circle. It always usually begins with a point of time in our existence where something happens in our life that's very significant. And that can be a trauma, a loss, a moment where we've been really, you know, faced with something that may have been life-changing in one way or the other. But I want you to talk to our audience about the moment that you lost your father, what that meant for you. And, you know, beside the fact you were a young woman when it happened, it could have been a tragedy in many people's eyes, the way that you see it now. So over to you, beautiful lady.
Thank you. Yes, I was 32 when my dad passed away. He had 2 different types of cancer, and I was with him the moment he transitioned. So I was the only one among, I have such a huge family, and it just so divinely happened that I was that person to be with him. And I don't really know what happened as on that day, but now looking back, I'm 40 now, so 8 years have gone by, and each year I've just expanded my relationship with grief. I love talking about it, and I love that we're diving into it today. So in that moment, on that day, I did have a spiritual awakening, but I didn't know it at the time. And the day after, literally the day after he passed, I started asking the question of, why am I here? What is my purpose? What does this life mean? We're all gonna die, so what am I supposed to do for the rest of my life? You know, I just feel like I'm not doing something. I'm not doing enough, or I'm not doing enough of what brings me joy. Like, am I just gonna go to work every day and come back? Like, that doesn't, it's not filling me in any way. And this is what my dad's death brought to me as a gift. And I just went down this path of what I now call self-discovery. But at the time, I didn't know. I was just trying to find answers. And I started with traveling and just doing spontaneous things, because I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'm going to die tomorrow. Like, I don't know. So let me just do what I really want to do. And then I just started exploring doing what I really want to do and doing what lights me up. And I just started doing these things that I never in my life before thought I could do.
Wow. Isn't that incredible? And I really hear you, and I am taking so much from that conversation, because, you know, because you don't realize how precious life is and what is super important until you meet with this kind of a death experience through someone very close, or you have, you know, something in your life. Like, I'm this kind of person. I've always kind of worried about everything. You know, I'm just a serial worrywart. And, you know, since I have met with my most recent crisis, which is about my husband and, you know, his diagnosis, which is, you know, said to be fatally serious, I have changed the way that I view things too. And even though there's that grieving, slow goodbye kind of thing happening within me, when I listen to what you just say, it resonates that now when I hear someone talking about a problem where usually I'd get riled up, I'm like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Life's here to be lived. You suddenly, it matures you. It kind of opens your eyes. It gives you this reality check. But I'm going to really borrow your beliefs here, because you are, someone I would say is a very good authority on this. Plus, you follow Neville Goddard so
Mm-hmm.
closely. And I would love to borrow your belief, Vanessa, on, how I can turn, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, I always say I'm going to speak for my listeners, and all that are praying for you. How can I turn this thing around called death? And sort of make it so gloomy and so terrible. And if you can talk me through and what you said backstage about the birth and then the death
Mm-hmm.
and the cycle of life, and just share how we can change our perspective on death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the first question I would ask everybody to, just close your eyes and ask yourself, well, why do I celebrate birth, but I don't celebrate death? And really just listen for the answer. And you'll notice, in your everyday life, like I have so many friends giving birth, and clearly I have seen so many babies being born, and we celebrate our birthdays every year. But then on the flip side, you look at death, and in my culture, I'm Catholic, and I'm also from a South Asian culture, and for us, death seems very like it's like a bad thing that you can't celebrate it. We can't be happy about it. We can't, even the songs that are chosen are. It needs to be somber, and it needs to be. It's quite interesting, and that's what fascinates me. Is we celebrate birth, but we don't celebrate death. But really, I mean, this is no, I'm not saying anything that nobody knows. The fact is that we are born to die. Okay. Like this is not revelation. This
Wow.
is,
I just have to pause you right there
yeah.
so that can land. We are born to die. Wow, that is a belief changer just in itself.
Yeah, and I think that when you tap into that space, it's not about, we are here having a human experience, right? How special, how amazing. And when we talk about, so I talk about leadership all the time, and I think people think that leadership is, oh, I need to have this X number of dollars in my bank account, titles, this and that. But let's all be clear, we're all gonna die one day, right? We're born and then we're gonna die. We don't know when that date is going to arrive. Um, we don't know. Nobody knows. Nobody can pinpoint it. I mean, there's so many cases where you're healthy and then you're dead. You're sick and then you're dead. Like it's no
Happened.
nobody's.
Look at Charlie Kirk.
Yeah,
Boom, 31 years old, and living by the sword, dying by the sword, shot in the throat. So many spiritual connotations around that one. And his legacy has multiplied.
yeah,
So,
and you can look at people on in the media, or you can also look at people in your own life. For me, it's my dad. My dad he didn't come from money. He didn't have any titles. He didn't like on paper. No, you would like he doesn't meet any of those criteria. But it is 8 years later now that he has passed, and people still come up to me talking about my father and talking about him in a way, when we talk about legacy, I think people misunderstand that legacy means that you got to leave something tangible for your future generations. And to me, my father didn't have any of those things, but what he left was who he was. This is why I talk about it's not about what you do, it's about who you are being. To me, that is what true leadership is. So when you step into work, when you step into your workplace, and we operate from this knowing that, look, my life is so precious. So
mhm.
why am I really afraid to speak up in this meeting right now? What am I really afraid of? Why am I really afraid to go after the thing that I want to go after? because who cares? We're all gonna die. So why not do it? Why not do it?
Did you hear that? Did you hear that, y'all? It's like the next time you're shrinking yourself back and not doing what you know that you feel very called to do, just say, what's holding me back? I'm going to die anyway one day. I might as well live without any regrets. I absolutely love that. And look, I just have to say this too. When you were talking about what comes to mind, you ask the audience the question, what comes to mind when you think about birth and death, and then you put us into that kind of a scenario where we're happy and joyful because we're celebrating the birth of a new baby. And then we flip to the other side. Do you know the word that came to me? Selfish. And I say this with all due respect, but I'm going to speak from myself. And that is that I don't want anyone that I love to die. And when I think about it, it's just selfish because I want them to stay here on this earth with me. But if we look at it from where you're coming from, we are born so we can die. I mean, that changes everything. And, like you were saying to me also backstage, that in some cultures, they literally celebrate it because, they believe that they're upgraded, which, I mean, Christians, I believe that we're going somewhere bigger and better than here on earth. This is kind of just a practice rehearsal.
And I think, just one more point about grief. Look, like, I'm not saying that somebody dies and everything's, let's just la-di-da and move on with our life. No, grief is such a sacred, to me, it is a sacred experience that I would never take away from anyone. But the point is that we don't witness that experience. We just see somebody's dead. Okay, now my life has changed. I miss them. Okay, fine. But that's just one part of the grief. But if we look at it from a different angle, if we look at it from everybody here comes into our life with a specific purpose, and they are meant to be here for whatever time that is meant to be here in my journey. For me, as an example, my dad was here for 0 to 32 years old of me. And he was meant to be here for a very specific purpose in my life at that point. And same with whoever he touched in his life. But just because his body is gone does not mean his soul is not here. I dream about my dad all the time. I know that he's here. He's here right now. Like, it's all, he's in me as well, right? I am a product of him. And so it is having your own relationship with grief and not listening to what other people tell you about grief. I've been told, shouldn't you be over it by now? How come you still talk about it? Like, shouldn't you be okay with it? It's been so many years. Don't laugh at the funeral. Don't play happy songs at the funeral. Be careful what you say at the eulogy. I wrote his eulogy and I spoke about it. That was my first speaking gig that I talk about in front of so many people. And what I wrote about him was unlike any other eulogy that I've heard, because it's not what I wanted it to be. I wanted this to be a celebration of this human being that is here in my life, that was given to me as a gift. And for nobody knows this, but my dad and I didn't have your typical father-daughter relationship. So if you look at it again on paper, it's not like we were close. It's not like we were best friends or anything like that. My relationship with him started after he passed.
Wow, that is special. I mean, that's legacy right there. And it sort of brings me to, some of the gold nuggets that you imparted with me behind the scenes. And I'm going to be paraphrasing them. But we talk about aligning. So you talk about the element of, obviously, your, even working with corporate people that are very logical, people that are, you know, working 9 to 5, they have the house, they have the car, they have the children, they have all of the things, but they still sense there's something missing. And you said it yourself, you know, we are spiritual beings and we're having a human experience on this planet. But when you align your inner state, your consciousness with the vibration of that which you desire, and I know you'll be able to bring something of great value here, you bring heaven to earth as much as possible, or the missing link, so to speak, of what quite often people are searching for and they don't quite know why it's not there or what's missing. And it's about, you know, you talk about it like it's an embodiment of awakening that truth. And, you know, that's when success is really achieved, through that embodiment. Can you please share that? Because there's a lot of people out there that may be in the corporate world, they might be steering away from the spiritual component, but listen up, you know, it could be the very essence of what's missing in your life.
Yeah, so I've been in corporate for 18 years of my career, and I reached a point a few years ago, before I transformed, I reached a point where I actually said out loud to my boss, you know, I really can't be one way at work and then leave work and be a completely different person. Like, it's too exhausting for me to come into work and have to wear a mask and pretend and be all buttoned up and, you know, be quote unquote good and the good employee or perfect in whatever that means, and then leave and finally feel that, oh, I've left the building, so now I can be myself now. And I'm like, no, this is not right. I didn't know the answer, but I knew that it wasn't right. And that to me was my nudge. And the leader on the other end, she clearly we were not vibrating on the same frequency, because she said, well, you know, you just have to do that. Like, you just have to be one way at work and another way outside. Like, that's how it is. And I knew, even though she was a leader, I knew not to listen, and I knew that she was wrong. So then I went down a path. I got myself my own coach, and really all the work that we were doing and what now I impart with my clients is this work around all of the shame and the self-judgment and the guilt that we walk around with, right? So for me, it was, why do I care so much about what other people are thinking? Even when I know it doesn't sit well with me, I still do what they want. And in our corporate environment, we feel like we cannot be ourselves, our true self, which is why topics like authenticity, topics like how to deal with your inner critic, topics like self-doubt, everybody's Googling those, because everybody's craving that, because I have heard this from so many of my clients. They come in, they say, oh, I have to be like this at work. But then when I'm outside of work, I can be myself. But why do we need to choose? Why do we need to choose?
Oh, absolutely. It's almost like being a jack in the box, you know. You're holding that big piece of yourself back. And, you know, so guys, if you're asking yourself the question, why do I feel like something is missing? Well, that was the question that Vanessa asked herself. And, you know, if you're thinking, well, I really should have it all together, and you're putting expectations on yourself, I think that causes a lot of the hollow feeling, and of course the comparisonitis too. So if we're looking at the Joneses who look like they're living the life, they've got the children, the fancy car, the fancy home, and then we're feeling like, oh, we're not taking into consideration all of our incremental wins. And I'm going to get you to open up on this because this is your topic. then all as we're doing is we're putting in our firing, we're putting ourselves in the firing line for something that is so self-sabotaging. So talk to us about celebrating the incremental wins and why integrating them is so vitally important.
Yeah. So I just want to touch on one thing you said just before, maybe throw a little nugget to the audience. When you see someone like the Joneses, when you see them have whatever it is that you desire inside of you, all that means is that it's available for you. And the universe, God, divine, source, whatever name you want to give it, doesn't matter the name, but that is a sign, a direct sign for you to know that it's available for you. Because if they have it, I can have it. It's already here.
Oh,
Yeah.
That is so powerful. And I think, how many people do we know anyway that fall into the trap of then envy, and envying instead of seeing it as being joyful for them. And if you can see it, then it is in you. And I know you're going to talk, us through this as we go through this sequence, because this is about knowing that everything that we truly want is already within our grasp. But I'm going to wait for Vanessa to lead us through that very powerful conversation. So, why is incrementally integrating all our wins so important?
Yeah, I think, and again, I'll just take it back to corporate and my experience with corporate, and what I've seen is that we don't track our wins. We wait for that big milestone. We wait for, let me wait until the product is launched. Let me wait until I've done a big project. Let me wait until I've done this big, grand, masterful thing. And then maybe I am worthy of celebrating all my hard work. We use these words. And I think for me, in my coaching with my clients, I'm very careful about the words that we use. So I'm always nitpicking the words. So I will cut them mid-sentence to say, what does this word mean to you? When we say the word hard work, I need to work hard and I've worked hard. What are you making that mean about yourself? That if I work hard, then now I'm worthy? What about somebody who doesn't need to work hard? And what if they just attract everything to them very seamlessly, very easily? Now you're jealous. Now you're envious of them because they didn't work hard. Like, I think these are all the nuances of why this work is so deep. So what I practice with, what I get my clients to practice and to get good at is, when you're doing the embodiment work, and embodiment just means whatever we do in our coaching session, now you're going to take it out into the real world and you're going to practice. And when you practice, maybe it's going to work and maybe it's not going to work, because this is not linear work. It's not do this and then this will happen. This is try this, see how you feel, see what comes out of it, and see your reactions, how you respond. It's a whole jumble of things. It's not a linear path. And so every session, I start the session saying, what are you celebrating most about yourself this week? And my clients will just come in saying, you know what? I did something for the first time this week. I responded differently this week than I ever have before in the same situation. But now I didn't freak out. I didn't have anxiety. I was calm. They said this to me and I didn't make that mean anything about myself. I asked my husband to help me with the chores for the very first time, and he helped. So it's so simple. I think we think that wins are something, you have to do something grand. And I always thought that as well for myself. And so then I was looking at my life and like, oh, well, obviously I'm not winning because nothing big is happening. But when I started to do this practice for myself, like I have books. I did once a challenge for myself where every Sunday I would write my wins for the week. And I did that for 100 weeks in a row. And I would love.
You wrote your what?
My wins for the week.
Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, so you projected it. You actually wrote the wins that you hadn't yet had, but to call them in. Wow. Okay.
No, I wrote the wins that that happened to me during the week, but my wins that I track are not your big giant, like they include that, but they're also in the small micro moments. And that's really what I teach my clients is it's not about the big wins. Sure, count those. Great. It's about the small micro moments. And when you start to track that, you will actually see how much you are progressing, because we're so focused on the end state or this goal, but we don't focus on the progression or how we are progressing, and how do we track our wins in the progressing stage of where we want to be. And that's really what we do. And I had this challenge for myself, and I did it for 100 weeks in a row. And I would love for the audience to try it, even just for 1 week, and see how much you can write on your paper.
Little wins, even if it was that you smiled at your next door neighbor who you couldn't stand and you did it anyway. Which leads me to saying this, because all of this is the gold that I was able to extract from this beautiful lady. You've talked about, obviously, the birth and death cycle. You've talked about the spirituality. You've talked about, these incremental wins. And also you've talked about the power of language and how you do pick up your clients and you really do ask them what that means for them, because it is the words that you speak. Your words are your wand, and it is your words that shape your reality. So when it comes to then, because I know you keep your clients accountable, and I would love to know about the activation process, which you beautifully call embodiment. So let's talk about embodiment and how that practice is so powerful for people that really want to feel that level of fulfillment.
Yeah. So I'll share a story in my own experience. I went down this path of doing self-help, and I did therapy, and I did, I listened to all the podcasts of all the greats, and then I read all the books, and I was doing all the things that were told to me that, yeah, if you do these things, then your life is going to change. But my life wasn't changing. I was just repeating the same patterns and the same cycles. And sure, maybe I made a little bit of changes here and there. But essentially, I was calling in all the same patterns in relationships, at my work, and outside of work. Okay. And then I was like, why am I not able to move the needle? I'm doing all the right things. And then I got my coach, and all the work that we did together had nothing to do with doing anything. There were no checklists to do. There were no exercises. There were no anything. It was all about, like I always talk about, looking at your beliefs, looking at how much shame you are holding onto yourself. We work on it in coaching, and now embodiment happens the moment you leave the coaching session. So let's say we end our coaching session. Now you have to go to work. Now you have to take a meeting. Now you have to have a conversation with your friend. Now you have to go on a date, maybe, whatever the case is. And that's where embodiment happens, outside the coaching session. Take what you learned, right? Knowledge is just knowledge. Knowledge is actually not power. Knowledge is just knowledge. Power is when you take the knowledge and you actually apply it. You can read a book. I've read Atomic Habits, right? Everybody, I think, has read that book. It's a great book. Love that book. But you just read the book, nothing's going to happen. You got to read the book, take something out of the book, and do it. Apply it. and then see it. That's a very simple example. But with coaching, it's okay, now I'm in a meeting, and am I going to speak up now? Am I going to speak up? Am I going to face my fear and maybe ask one question? Am I going to do something, maybe just micro shift that is different than how I was operating before? And let's say I do it, and let's say it doesn't land. Let's say there was pin drop silence in the meeting. Now I come back to my coaching session the following week with my coach, and that's a win. That's a win that I'm going to call out, because I'm going to say, you know what? I spoke up for the very first time in a room full of leaders, and nobody said anything, but I don't care, because I spoke up and I did the hard thing and I faced my fear. And to me, that's a win. That's a huge win. I don't care what anybody else, I don't care what the outcome is. I don't care what the outcome is, but that was my win. And that is embodiment. And then we practice, we do it once, and then we start to do it again, and then we start to do it again. And then next thing you know, it's just a part of, this is now my life. This is who I am. This is how we transform. Transformation is not some big grand reveal, red carpet. Look at me, I'm transformed. Transformation happens through the small micro moments in the shift. Even just listening to someone where maybe before you didn't listen. To me, there is a huge win in shifting your way of being. So many things that I could say, but these are just some examples.
I'm hearing you, girl. I'm hearing you. I mean, and what I've taken in and really learnt from you is that this is not about performing at all.
Correct.
I think we all go out there burning ourselves out and hustling like mofos, just to wonder why we're not achieving the big thing and looking for the big, nirvana or the big pot of gold on the other side. But we're really missing the moment. And, when you come back to your spirituality too, of what's really important in life, I think that's when that full spring can really come from within. And I can't wait to really pick your brains in a moment and find out about, all these things, because I know so many people in my community, they're constantly putting things out there on their vision boards. They're constantly hoping for the goal that they can't achieve, and then beating themselves up year after year because they haven't got it. But Vanessa is going to talk about that in just a moment. However, I want to just echo what you've said about, really living it, embodying it, becoming it, and understanding that success is not about the performance. It is about the beingness. And with or without the external validation, which is what you just said. So if you went to your boss and you laid your cards down on the table and you spoke your truth, but then you didn't get your way, that is still a win. That's what you want, right? Am I right in saying that?
Absolutely, yes.
That's amazing. So honor the process, track the micro wins, and celebrate the growth daily. So let's talk about now activating our identity and how you help rewire people who are looking for that so-called dream goal. But let's make a very big, hard, arduous story and make it short and sweet. And your favorite word, which is simple. And I'll get you to open up on the simplicity and then expound on, what we're putting out there and why we've got it all wrong.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned Neville Goddard. He's just a very fascinating man that I have listened to over the years, and his teachings are just, at the end of the day, very simple. If you ever listen to him, they're very simple, but they're very profound. And you almost look at yourself and you wonder, you know, it is actually very simple. All the things are very simple. We make it complicated. And you're here right now. This is what I walk through with, you know, my clients, this exercise of here's where you are right now, and here's where you desire to be, whatever that state is, your desired state. And then it's a bridge that, you know, the line between here and here, it's the gap or whatever word you want to use. I call it a bridge. And what's lying under that bridge is all of your doubts, your worries, your procrastination, your comparing comparing yourself to others, um, judgment, shame, guilt, perfectionism tendencies. I need to be busy in order to be productive. All of these are lying in that bridge. And so, if you want to be here, this is nowhere far. Like, this is not weeks, months, years. Oh, it'll take me years to get there. No, no. Like, let's just squash that right now. I changed my life within less than 3 months of me working with my coach. Like, literally, the instant I started working with her, I started to notice things shift around me. So let's just squash the belief that you have that says it needs to take a long time for you to get to your desired state. It doesn't. It doesn't need to take a long time. That in itself is a belief that we can look at, right? And really, all the work that needs to be that we do is unlearning all of these things that we tell ourselves. Of course, it's ingrained in us through our upbringing. It's ingrained in us through society pressures, through social media now. And you almost don't know what to believe, who to believe. And that in itself can feel overwhelming. But everything is all, if you desire it, it is meant for you to have. You cannot have a desire if it is not meant for it to be available for you already. And that's the single biggest thing that I carry with me every day. And that's what keeps me going. Even if I don't see it tangibly in my reality right now, that doesn't mean it's not available. And this is where we connect from our earthly sort of logical brain, and we connect it to the spirituality, right?
Yeah.
And it's really looking at how big and how expansive this world actually is. But our thinking sometimes is so limited. You know, our thinking can be like this. And when we do the work in coaching, we expand the thinking. So, you know, then your thinking becomes like this. And then next thing you know, oh, there are no limitations. I started like this. I started like this, thinking that, oh, there's only one way to do this thing. If I don't do it this way, then it's not gonna work. Like, I don't know. There's no other way. And now I'm literally here. Now it's like, oh, you're gonna tell me no? It's okay. It's gonna come to me another way. There is an infinite number of possibilities for me to do whatever it is that I desire to do. And I have experienced miracles in my life. I'm talking miracles of things that I never thought were possible. And it just comes to me in other ways because I'm open. I'm detached from a specific outcome of the way it needs to be. I don't force anymore. I've learned to take action from an aligned place, not from a, oh, I need to do this because if I don't do it, then it won't happen. And there's a chasing energy inside of us. So it's not about doing less, doing more. Not about any of that. It's about your vibration and the frequency that you carry with you everywhere you go. So if I was in corporate and I was not a leader, I was by title, right? Like I wasn't a leader. I was at your uh what you call, some people call like the worker bee level, the ground level, whatever you want to call it. But I was sitting in rooms where I was speaking up all because I started to open myself up, and I didn't care what anybody. I would just say things with kindness, obviously. And I had people messaging me who were at my level. They were messaging me and saying, Thank you, Vanessa, for saying this in this meeting, because
Yeah.
nobody says this like us meaning at my level, right? Our level, because only leaders say that kind of stuff. Only leaders challenge the status quo or say an opinion,
Yes, yes,
and
yes,
that to me is a leader. That is me embodying my leadership.
exactly,
It's not
exactly.
about a title.
Rather than limiting yourself, and you know, I feel that anybody that's listening to this, that really wants the true gold of manifestation, if you haven't heard this entire broadcast, you've got to listen to it, because it does the full circle of life, birth, death, to the way that we look at every single element of our life, what meaning we give it, where that meaning comes from, what that meaning actually means to you, right through to the practice of embodiment, and, you know, really celebrating those incremental wins, echoing what this beautiful lady has just spoken about, right through to understanding that in actual fact, that when we are vibrating at an element where we know that everything we desire is actually desiring us, it has that wonderful element of turning things around. And, you know, I believe that brings me to, I feel that you've answered that question beautifully, as far as, okay, well, maybe I'll challenge you as the last question here, but, you know, you have a person and they want the life that they feel that they desire, of maybe a majestic house and a majestic partner, and, you know, all of those elements. What would you say to them?
I would say if they came to me saying exactly that, I would first get them to get clear on what is this majestic life that you want. I would make them get clear on, give me some details of this. What does majestic mean to you? When you are seeking a relationship, what kind of relationship are you looking for? Who,
Mm,
like, give me details. Because I think we all say, I want love and I want money and I want
mm,
success. But when I ask you how much money you want, you don't have a number. Or you get something happens inside of you, you're like, maybe this number is too much. Maybe it's not enough. Like, can I say this number? Like, I've never asked for this number, and money is a whole other topic that we can talk about, right? But you notice that people say this, I want to be successful. And I always ask, what does success mean to you?
yes.
I want
Exactly.
love. What does love mean to you? So I think
What
the
does
first step,
majestic mean? What does
what does
majestic?
majestic mean? I love
Yes.
the word, but what does it mean? Because my definition of majestic is
Mm,
different from your definition of majestic, and that's great, but we need to get clear. If you are not clear, then how will the universe listen? Because the
no.
universe is always listening. And all our job is to get clear on our what and our why. What do I desire, and why do I desire it? For what purpose? For what purpose in this big global space that we live in? The how it needs to get done is not my problem. The how is the universe's role. I just focus on my what and my why. And if we
Yes.
really tap into that, the how will work itself out. And I am living proof that this is how it works. It does not mean that, oh, I'm just going to stay and now sit here and lie on the couch and not do anything. That's not what that means. It means that we co create with the universe.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
come with my part, and the universe will bring its part. And
I
that
love
is the connection. It's a co-creation. We are co-creating with the universe, and it's so
mm,
beautiful when we go down this path and we start to see things come into our reality from this co-creation, and then we see it, and then we want to, we be in so deep gratitude. I think gratitude is a practice that
yes.
we can all practice at a deeper level. It's not like, oh, I'm grateful for my family and my health, and sure, but tell me something you're grateful for that's not about your family, your friends, your pets, your, tell me something deeper.
Mm,
Are you
yes,
grateful just for being? Are you grateful whether you lose your job or you have a job? Are you grateful if you're in a relationship or not in a relationship? Do you really love yourself? Like, how grateful are you for this breath that is given to us every moment of
that's
every single
beautiful.
day?
That is absolutely beautiful. You are definitely the manifestation queen. I'm going to say that because this is probably one of the deepest, simplistic ways of discovering, the easiest and the most spiritual way to really get what you want. And, the show just wouldn't be the Genius Zone if I didn't ask this final question, because I know that you talk about speaking out. So I'm just going to put that out there. But if there was one last thing that you thought, oh, I would have loved to have said that to
Mm.
that person who is really, really needing to hear this, what would you say to them?
I would say that it really is not about what you are doing, and it's all about who you are being. And I promise you that if you are feeling stuck right now in your life for whatever reason, it's not because you're not doing enough. It's not because you need to fix yourself. It's not because you're broken. It's not because you're not worthy, unlovable, or unwanted, or unvalued. It's none of those things. And this is the
Mm.
work we do in coaching.
Yeah,
It's none of those things.
that is above coaching. That's mentorship. That's
Yeah.
thought leadership. This is what the Genius Zone is about. It's not just about expounding on what we coach. It's giving our audience the real deepest gold nuggets of why it's such a good thing to do that.
Mhm.
And I just want to say, from the very bottom of my heart, thank you so very, very much for being on the Genius Zone and being so generous. And I just want to say, I know that you do really advocate for speaking out as well about what you want. So,
Mhm.
can we speak in any last words on that one?
Yeah, really, there is nothing to be afraid of. Um, and I look, I'm nobody special. I say that all the time. I don't have anything like special inside of me, but I went from being this shy little girl all the way through my 30s, still being shy and faking confidence and trying all those fake it till you make it mumbo jumbo that they teach us. And I realized it's really not about any of those things, and it's really about discovering who you are and peeling back all the layers of who you are. And then your voice is will be your most powerful asset. And it's not about voice that, like, voice I speak for the sake of speaking, or let me be loud in this room. It's not about that. It's about, I know who I am, I understand the value I bring and my worth, and I speak from that place, not to make anybody listen to me, or not to chase, or not to look at me. And it's not about that. That's not what we mean by voice. I can just step into a room and my voice speaks without even me speaking. It's my energetic voice, my
It's
energetic
the
presence.
energetic voice. I love that. Speak
Yeah.
your truth and do it from the throat chakra. Vanessa
Hmm.
Pereira, thank you so much for being on the Genius Zone.
Thank you so much. This was such a great conversation to have. Thank you for having me.